Okay. All right, we're going to call the meeting to order. And we're going to come into regular session, and I'll lead the pledge, and would someone, we'll just stand for silence for the, what? All right. All right, please follow with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing.
Please bow your heads with me. Dear Lord, we come before you tonight, and we just lift up our nation. Lord, it's hurting, and there's lots of turmoil, and we pray for healing in our land, heal the hearts. Lord, let there be more love and less hate in this world, and we're so sorry for the lives that have been impacted through all of this, and we pray that you would heal and comfort all, and we pray for wisdom on our decisions tonight, and we love you and pray all these things in your Son's name. Amen.
Amen. Please be seated. Okay, the next item is the city attorney's report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is Lloyd Pilchin. City Council met in closed session, heard report from staff. Direction was given. No reportable final action was taken. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, sir. The next item is public comment on items not on the agenda. Persons wishing to address the council on matters that are within the council's jurisdiction and do not already appear in the agenda may do so at this time. Pursuant to the Brown Act, the City Council may not take action on an item that does not appear on the agenda. Speakers are limited to 5 minutes. The public comment section of the agenda is limited to a total of 1 hour. Each speaker is asked to provide his or her name. Is there anyone who would like to speak? Is there anyone who would like to speak on this, on comments on items not on the agenda? Do I see no one?
Madam Mayor, may I ask you a question?
All right.
I do have a member of the public sent me an email and asked me to read it. Where would you like me to read that?
I think it's okay to read it from there as long as people understand that it is from a member of the public.
Yep.
Do you want to say something, Ron?
Yes, ma'am. Under these conditions, with no audience and us telecommuting, it's more than acceptable if somebody, emails something in for us to read in public comment. So I would say it'd be okay.
All right. Thank you. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, I'm finding the, no, there we go. Okay, this is from Mr. Mike Neal. The council now, so Mike Neal says that the council has now closed meetings to the public for over 6 weeks. The governor has reopened numerous businesses, and now the people are free to wisely carry out most of their activities. Yet some on the council and city manager continue to use this circumstance to keep the public from face-to-face meetings, something that directly violates the spirit of California law embedded in Government Code 54950. Having web-based telephonic comment ability to participate debases a large essential part of the physical participation in this public meeting. The council is not a specifically privileged group of citizens. It is a group that is to act in the knowledge that it derives its power from the people and is beholden to encourage their participation and be serious of their input. Holding the public off at arm's length violates this principle. Especially after numerous closed meetings and with public life now beginning to return to a form of normalcy, this council should be anxious to reopen its doors to the public. Sadly, the appearance is being given that closed meetings will continue as long as an excuse can be found to bar the public. I ask the question, why is this meeting closed to the public? What common sense principle requires that these meetings continue to be closed? Do people want to look you in the face when you legislate on their behalf? Mike Neal. Again, that is not my opinion or my words. That is Mr. Mike Neal.
Okay, thank you, sir. All right, then the next item we have.
We have an item, we have a call.
Okay, caller, please identify yourself. Caller, please identify yourself.
I have one comment to the council that I'd like them to look into. It's not an item on the agenda.
Please, this is the time for that.
I understand, I may be incorrect though, that the dog park is part of the county, but the city leases the land. And my question is that the county is concerned with all the heat wave, and the dog park has not had the water turned on for some time, and it's a very nice water system. It's an antifreeze, and it looks like the sign at the front posted was an Eagle Scout project. I don't know if it was by a number of people or a single person, but it's a very nice antifreeze system. The dogs need water there. I'm not asking for the people. I don't know why it's not on there with the heat wave. If the council would look into it, it would be appreciated.
We can certainly ask the county. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, is there another caller?
County.
Caller, please identify yourself, please.
Hello.
Go ahead, Dave.
Go ahead.
Yeah, hi, this is Dave Matthews. I just wanted to, first of all, second Mike Neal's letter. I think I forwarded it to some of you. But also, I would like the mayor and maybe some of the council people here to step up and take some leadership. The shutdown in Kern County should be reopened right now. I've been tracking the viruses, the statistics rather, here in Kern County. It's now 38 out of 240 some, 2,400 some. And if you do the numbers, the percentage of deaths per the confirmed cases is going down, just like the Bakersfield doctors said it would. We're testing more, we're finding more people that have been exposed, but the deaths are not rising. So we're being led down a path that is injuring not only our county and our city, but the whole darn nation. And this other stuff that's shown up here now in the last week is very, very disgusting as far as I'm concerned. It's uncalled for, and we need to start getting some leadership that shows that we can act as adults and take care of ourselves. I finally got a pedicure Monday. I'm actually going to get a haircut next week. No thanks to the governor. But things are starting to look up a little bit, but there are still businesses that are struggling out here. And this whole darn thing, and you know darn is a nice word, did not have to happen. So I would like this council, and I would hope by the next meeting that we're going to be able to come in there and talk without going through all this rigmarole of dialing, muting, and whatever. So that's my spiel for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, is there another caller? Gary, is there anybody online? No. Okay, then we will close public comment. And we will come to council announcements. Council.
I have none.
Okay, thank you. We will now go to the consent calendar. All items on consent calendar are considered to be routine and non-controversial by city staff. Consent items will be approved in one motion if no member of the council or audience wishes to comment or ask questions. If comment or discussion is desired by anyone, the item will be removed from the consent calendar and will be considered in listed sequence with an opportunity for any member of the public to address the city council concerning these items before action is taken. There are 5 items. I will read them. Proposed action to approve draft minutes of the City Council, Successor Redevelopment Agency, Financing Authority, Housing Authority, special meeting dated May 22nd. The next item, a resolution of the City Council, City Ridgecrest to cooperate with the County of Kern, electing to participate in the Community Development Block Grant Funds and Home Investment Partnership Programs for fiscal year 21 through 23, and authorize the City Manager, Ron Straff, to sign the cooperative agreement. Number 3, a resolution of the City Council calling and giving notice the holding of a general municipal election to be held on Tuesday, November 3rd, 2020, for the electing of certain officers as required by the law of the State of California relating to general law cities. Number 4, a resolution of the City Council requesting the Board of Supervisors of the County of Kern to consolidate a general municipal election to be held on Tuesday, November 3rd, with a statewide general election to be held on that date pursuant to section number 10403 of the Election Code. And last, number 5, grant acceptance for the United States Department of Justice Burn Justice assistance grant for the fiscal year 20 coronavirus emergency supplemental funding program. Do any of the members of the council wish to have any item pulled? Do any members of the public wish to have an item pulled? Please call in. If you do so, we'll give you a few seconds to do that. Gary, is there anyone that, no? Okay. Then a motion?
I move approval of the consent calendar.
Second.
Please vote. Five ayes, motion carries.
Okay. Update on discussion action items, update on local COVID-19 response. Mr. Strand.
Yes, Madam Mayor, members of City Council. This is the every other week update on COVID-19, how it's affecting the city. Since 2 weeks ago, the number of positive cases in Ridgecrest have gone up to 8, leaving the total in our valley at 9. We've had a very low infection rate within our community. There are currently no inpatients at the Ridgecrest Regional Hospital. However, countywide, there has been a significant uptick in testing. There currently has been, as of yesterday, 2,322 positive tests, and it was up 678 from 2 weeks ago. There's currently 38 deaths, up 13 from 2 weeks ago. The main driver of the deaths is in our skilled nursing homes, and they've had a couple of spikes in the communities of, I believe, Arvin and Lamont that they're dealing with. One of the things that the county is concerned about is that there's a certain, in their variants, there's certain triggers that exist that if they go above that trigger, that they have to then go back from, let's say, lower stage 3 to upper stage 2. So there is some concern that if those numbers get worse over in the Bakersfield area, and if their percentage of positive cases over a certain period of time grow over a certain percentage, and then the number of hospitalizations reach a certain amount, as well as their failure of the surge capacity in their ICU, they may have to then pull back a little bit. I do believe that with the variants that the county can then treat the west side different than the east side. That was mentioned to them, that there was no reason why, let's say, the east side, Cal City, Tehachapi, and Ridgecrest should have to go back to early stage 2 and shut down businesses if we have no tests, no positive tests, and vice versa. If we had a spike over here, that they wouldn't do the same. So I think with our numbers, we are doing well. I don't see that we would have to then go backwards. I know that we are in early stage 3, that in dining is now open. The churches are now open under certain guidelines, as well as the hair salons. And I know that they were supposed to be releasing more guidelines this week to open up the gyms and other stage 3 activities, but I do believe that some of the activities that they've had over the weekend and this week, the rioting that has occurred in some communities, I think has taken the eye off the ball a little bit. So we haven't received some of the guidelines for some of these other areas. As for the city, our day camp has started. We have the kids playing. We're following their guidelines. Narissa and Jason and staff are doing a good job, so we got that going. I had Jason reach out today regarding the splash pad. I have an email. Basically, he's part of a group of about 234 cities that have been monitoring this. They've been in contact with one of the health officials up in Sacramento, and nothing's come out yet. So as soon as we can open the splash pad, we will. We're waiting for guidelines from the state to do so. I know Mr. Neal mentioned about us opening our meetings. We would like to open our meetings for June 17th. We're hoping that the guidelines will come out that will allow us to open it up. I think by then we should, and so we're preparing so. If we do, we'll probably all be seated the same. We'll probably have restricted seating to a certain number within the audience. We're going to try if we can. If we can, I'll let you know, because I understand it's important that we eventually open up. The same importance that we had while a lot of cities shut down and didn't meet at all, we continued to meet. I still think it's important that we do the business of the community as openly and transparent as we can, but we also have to make sure we follow the rules and we're safe as we possibly can. So as soon as we can, we will. I have no intent of locking anything down any longer than we have to, and I know that's the feeling of the council. I think we'd all like to be open more than where we're at, and as soon as we can get there, we will.
I had a quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
At the last meeting, we unanimously said that we were going to send a letter to the governor saying we wanted to be viewed as separate from Kern County, and I haven't seen that letter. And I just, in light of how the cases are going in Kern County and how there's concern that we may be stepping backwards into upper phase 2, I think it's really important that I understand we kind of entered into phase 3 a little bit, but I want to see us send that letter so that we have it on record that we want to be looked at separately from over there, because we're totally different here. And
I do believe we are. I believe that the governor has been very clear in his directive that allows the counties to decide based upon their area. So, and I do believe Kern County is on board with that. So it already exists that the counties can decide amongst their county how they open up, what stays closed, what doesn't close. And I do believe the county is in the position that they're not going to shut down Ridgecrest if Bakersfield has an infection spike. And I don't think there's any way in this world, if we had a spike in Ridgecrest, that Bakersfield would close down. So I can write the letter, but it already exists, in my opinion.
But I guess I thought the decision was last time that we wanted to vocally say we want to be fully in stage 3, and we want to be looked at separately from Kern County. So
I didn't think that we wanted a letter to be our own entity, that we could be on our own. But before we could write the letter, we were in stage 3. Everything that we wanted was there. So it became a moot issue. Now, if it's the opinion of the council, direction of the council, that the city of Ridgecrest wants to be its own county or its own entity by itself, I can write that. But I don't think that we really need that, because the state has made it very clear that the county has an approved variance. They get to make these decisions. In fact, the governor's doing the exact same thing that President Trump did. He said he gave the authority to the states to reopen. Now he has threatened a couple of the states to open a little bit more because they were dragging their feet. And when that happened, they opened up a little bit more, and the governor's made it very clear to the county that as he opens things up, it's really up to the local counties to decide. And we do have some counties that have elected to stay closed longer than others for their reasons. So no, it already exists, and I do believe that we'd be treated differently. So not that I don't want to write a letter, I just want to write a letter that says something that we don't have. And I don't know if we're going to get to stage 4 yet, because I still think there's a concern.
Well, we're not even through stage 3. I mean, we're at like stage 3.1 because he keeps piecemealing it out.
I agree. It is kind of slow. And they did say, and they have been placing the guidelines out fairly quick. The in-dining came out, the churches came out, the salons came out fairly quick. As a community, we got that information to those who needed it the most, so they could follow the guidelines. There were some restaurants that took a couple more days to open up because they were extremely diligent about making sure they follow those guidelines, because I do think there is a segment of our community that is still concerned about this virus. We have some on one spectrum and others on the other spectrum. And I think the businesses are taking the stances is that they have to make everybody feel comfortable, not offend the ones who feel that this is a hoax, and not, scare those who think it's serious. And so they're trying to, do a general balance here of trying to get things open. So, I think we'd be a little bit further along, except for the riots. But I also think that the riots may move this thing a little bit quicker anyway, because if in 2 weeks we don't have a massive infection running throughout the state, then I think it's hard to justify why we're still closed.
Yeah.
Because
they're not exercising social distancing in the riots.
No, you have thousands of people that are nowhere near social distancing. So I think that a lot of this stuff's going to come to bear, and it is kind of, it is unfair that you have people protesting about being locked down, and they're being threatened with arrest, and those who are rioting, aren't. So I get that.
What has to be the criteria for us to open city council meetings? You say you think we can open.
Well, it has to do with public meetings and public gatherings. I mean, right now it's they discourage public gatherings. You can't meet with more than 10.
But so churches, that doesn't make, because churches it's 100. So
yes, that is we could bootstrap onto that we could say that we're following the churches and guidelines. My intent is to do everything I can to be open on the 17th. I do not want to be closed any longer than we have to.
Because it'd be real easy to have 10 or 20 people in here, which is basically no more than we ever get anyway, except on casino night.
Well, one of the conversations that the city manager group is having, and we'll have it again tomorrow, there are some that are going to be opening up this month. And so I think in our meeting tomorrow, I'll at least ask, as a group, where are we all at? And I think some are going to be open. I do believe the Kern County Board of Supervisors is going to be open on the 16th. I may have misunderstood what.
That's what I heard.
Yeah, we have to verify that. So if I believe we can open, there's some work that the staff has to do in the meantime, because OSHA requires us to have a safety plan in place to protect our employees, and so we're working on that. That's one of the things that Chief McLaughlin and some other key staff members will be working on here in the next week or so. So we are pushing towards that. I would love to be open during that time, and if we can, we will. Because I know the 17th we're going to be bringing a budget to you to approve, and I think even though we normally don't have a whole lot of attendance for our budget, but I know that there's some key people that want to keep the city honest and transparent, that probably want to be at that meeting. I think there's no reason why we can't open it up if at all possible.
I know, Scott, you wanted to say something.
Well,
and then we have a caller.
Yeah, not too much. I think the county, we probably wouldn't be where we're at today if it wasn't for, the county doing all the work that they've been doing. And so I don't, really see us, I don't want to put any roadblocks on them. When they opened the churches up, wasn't there a clause or a statement in there about after 21 days they would do a reassessment? Did I read into that? And I'm wondering, does the 17th fall? I don't remember what day that was off. That phase went into play.
That would have went into play the Sunday or Monday after our last council meeting on Friday,
Which would have been roughly, because it would
about a week and a half ago.
have to, when we're
Eight-
looking at.
eight, 9, 10 days ago,
17th of
yes.
June, so.
Yeah.
So that's close to that 21, my thoughts was kind of fell in that 21-day mark, and if we're 10, 12 days into that, we're only another 10, whatever, just roughly estimating another 10, 11 days before what I interpreted was, a reassessment by the governor to, see if things were, not making any big waves and to possibly open things up further. I mean, that's how I read it, but.
I do think that my peers are going to be, I think we're all going to be trying to open up about the same time. And
Yeah.
I'll verify that, because there is safety in numbers in that regard, that if all the cities are going to open up their council meetings, that it does provide us cover. It does say, hey, we feel comfortable following the guidelines and, obviously making sure we, do the proper spacing and we, make sure we have the safety, the proper protocols in place to reopen. Because one of the things we have to be concerned about is our employees. And to be honest with you, we have employees that are concerned, that I have to be concerned about. I have employees that are very concerned about reopening that I have to be mindful of for a variety of reasons.
Well, there's a lot of seniors in town that are still very conservative and concerned about it too.
Yeah.
But they don't want to get exposed. I mean, my next door neighbor's 80 years old, and his wife doesn't want anything to happen to him, so they're staying at home,
And
even though they can go out. So
We would still have the call-in option available
Yes.
for an extended period of time.
One of the things that we're going to do, and one of the items on the agenda is this CARE Act grant. And one of the things we're going to do with that money is we're going to upgrade our council chambers. This council chambers supports 4 very important meetings. It supports our council meetings, it supports our planning commission meetings, it supports the Sierra Sands Unified School District, as well as the Groundwater Authority. I do believe that we'll probably be having the opportunity for people to call in for some time. Because I do think until people are comfortable, we have to be mindful to have that ability. Now, what we're hoping to do is be able to improve how this sounds and how that booth works. And so we're going to, we're working on trying to get a bid and a design to improve that a little bit. Put some monitors up that, if Mr. Pilcham doesn't want to drive up, we can see Mr. Pilcham in our council meeting. We can have him participate that way. So we are going to be looking at, as we open up, being available for call-ins. I know, if you'd asked me some time ago, I would say, it's bad enough we have all the public comment at the podium, but I do think that I think this is an opportunity for maybe a group of people that couldn't participate before to now be able to participate. So we'll have both. And so I think that's what the council is looking toward, and we may be recommending council to agree with.
I just want to add one more thing before we go to the caller, that I have talked to members of Kern County. I know that Scott has been involved in those meetings, and all of them understand the difference between East and West. And this isn't a big thing that is going to be a barrier to finding solutions. So, caller, identify yourself and please speak your question.
Thanks for being there. I just have a couple of points I'd like to make. I'm kind of nervous when I talk on the phone. I apologize for that. Everyone's looking forward to the council chambers opening, myself included, and all of us. I have kind of a simple idea. If I'm understanding capacity with churches, I think it was either 100 or was it 25%? Now,
25.
if we took, if we were to add up all the seats that we have in the council chamber now and take 25% of those and make those available for the public, and then, maybe put tape every 6 feet apart, those rows, and then maybe skip a row back, we might be able to open up the city council chambers maybe sooner, only if Kern County, our health department would go along with that. I don't know if that's considered a third phase right now. I'm not sure. But I think we need to listen to our county health department. They've been doing an excellent job, staying the course, keeping people calm, because we're living in some times now that are pretty moving. And that's just kind of my thought on that. I also really like this idea of continuing the call-in option. as well as in the future if we open up again. I really think that's fantastic. If it could be worked out, like Mr. Strand was saying, I really think it's something we should think
Oh,
about.
my goodness.
And
Oh, my God.
oh, we're having an earthquake. I'm shaking here. Oh my God. I'm sorry. Oh dear. We were supposed to get an aftershock. They had one in Barstow, about 2 days ago, and one up at Little Lake, 3.9. Oh my goodness. Anyway, thank you guys for listening. Stay calm and stay strong. That's all I can say. And thank you very much for listening. Good night. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Do we continue?
I think we continue.
I think we should until we know we can't. Okay, 5-minute break, everybody.
My kids weren't here for the last one.
So,
We weren't
would
here
you
for that.
say 5.3?
that's all we did. Yeah. So far, everybody is okay. We haven't heard anything differently. We'll let you know. Okay? All right, thanks. As far as we know. We're on.
Okay.
As far as we know. I'm still sitting.
So, Madam Mayor, we were still talking about the COVID-19 update.
I thought we were done.
Yes.
I thought we were done with that.
Well, I guess we ended that with an exclamation point.
So the meeting, Mrs. Lloyd, the meeting is reconvened.
Reconvene.
Yes.
Okay. You're lucky you weren't.
Thank you.
All right. Did you leave us, Lloyd, or were you here when we were?
Oh, I was monitoring.
I feel safer, Lloyd. Thank you.
Yeah, Lloyd votes for the new monitor to be able to phone in from now on.
Now, don't speak for me, Ron. I miss seeing you guys.
Okay. Is there any other comments on that?
No comment.
Okay. So we will, and I see nobody's called in. So we will go to a resolution to approve the professional service agreement with the firm Wildan Engineering for the design of the Bowman Channel Arch Culvert.
Peggy, your mic's not on.
Arch Culvert under South Norma Street and Bowman Channel check dam structures. So, Mr. Culp, are you online?
Yes, Honorable Mayor, council members, this is Lauren Culp, City Engineer. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, that's quite a hard act to follow there. It was, I just got off the USGS website for the earthquake reporting, and they say it was a 5.5, 17 kilometers south of Searles Valley, California. The first time I looked, it was 5.1, and they recently just updated it to 5.5. Didn't know if you knew that or not, but anyway, moving on to our Bowman Channel Culvert project. Tonight I'm going to ask you to approve a resolution to approve a professional services agreement with Wildan for the design of a Bowman Channel Arch Culvert under Norma Street. And along with that, there's going to be two check structures that are two dam check structures that are going to go in between Norma and South China Lake Boulevard. Mayor, we had solicited RFPs to consulting firms for these services. The review of those RFPs, where review committee determined that Wildan was the most qualified consultant to provide these services for us. There's quite a number of engineering tasks that's going to be involved with this project. There's going to be design, cost estimating, environmental compliance, and additionally, there will more than likely be environmental special studies for environmental clearances. We're also having to comply to both the CEQA Act as well as the NEPA Act for environmental clearance and environmental compliance. As you know, you've probably witnessed that during high hydrologic events, the intersection at Norma and Bowman Road floods. I can remember a story that Mike Meyer, our traffic sergeant, told me one time that he had an individual that had the car had stopped right in the midst of a major hydrologic event. The channel was overflowing over the top of Norma at that location, and the individual got out of the car and was almost swept downstream from it. He was telling me he was extremely scared of that potential of losing someone right before his eyes. This last winter, we also had a fairly large hydrologic event in which the roadway overtopped again. And with each of those events, we have witnessed that there's erosion of the roadbed joining the channel and around it at intersection of Norma and Bowman. So what we'd like to do is proceed with the design and environmental compliance with this Bowman Arch Culvert. What we're looking at for fee is $62,776, and that's just for doing the survey, design, cost estimating, and environmental compliance. We're going to be asking you for an additional $29,806 for the CEQA and NEPA special environmental studies for clearances. And with that, we would then be in a very good position to have a shovel-ready flood control project. And the reason I'm saying a shovel-ready project is that Mr. Lauer, our Public Works Director, has been able to identify a potential funding source for us that the application is coming up in this August, whereby I think it was FEMA, Mr. Lauer had indicated, has this grant program for taking care of flood control facilities. But if we accomplish this, we would be in a very good position to have a shovel-ready project with grant funding. So with that, Honorable Mayor, council members, I'm going to ask for the following actions. I'm asking for you to consider the award of a professional services agreement to Willdan Engineering, the design, cost estimates, and CEQA, NEPA, environmental clearance, and possibly environmental clearance services for the Bowman Arch Channel Culvert and check dam structures flood control projects. And I'm asking you to allocate $92,662 of drainage impact fees. I'm asking you to consider authorizing the finance director to amend the budget to reflect all appropriate capital, revenue, and transfer accounts and create a purchase order in the amount of $92,662. And I'm asking you also to please also authorize City Manager Ron Strand to execute the contract. With that, Honorable Mayor, I'm concluded my staff report to you, and I'm available for any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you. Questions from council? I see no one from the public, but if you want to call in, please do so at this time. We'll give you a few seconds, 30 seconds to call in. Supervisor Gleason wanted to know if he needed to come down here. I told him that Jeb is checking and letting us know. Okay. Since we could assume the same positions we occupied in previous earthquake.
The chief has his officer doing a survey right now, so we'll know if there's any damage or shortly.
That's what I told Nick. Yeah. Vince Vaughn said the same thing. Okay. All right, I see that there's no one called in, so a motion from council.
I move approval of all the requested action.
Second.
Please vote. Try to get back into habit.
Okay.
5 ayes, motion carries.
Okay, the next item is acceptance of the CARES grant and corresponding resolution. Sir?
Yes, ma'am, members of the City Council. What I have before you is an agreement between the City of Ridgecrest and the County of Kern for a CARES Act grant from the county. In March of this year, the President signed into law the CARES Act that authorized $2 trillion to battle COVID-19. As part of that bill, that law, there was $150 billion set aside for state, county, and municipal governments and populations over 500,000, providing funding to deal with the expenditures, necessary expenditures to respond to COVID-19. The county on April 23rd received $157 million grant to be able to respond to COVID-19 as a county. The county elected on May 5th to set aside $20 million for the local communities within Kern County to provide us funding to respond to COVID-19 to pay for necessary costs. Now, the city's portion of that $20 million is roughly $993,000, and that was based upon our 2019 population census. So they broke it up based upon population, which was the same manner in which the county received it.
They couldn't just round it off to an even million?
It's semantics. So the good part is that we're very grateful. The county did not have to do this.
No, they didn't.
They chose to do this to help out the cities. There was one thing that the city managers wanted that wasn't in the initial grant application, and that was us, the cities, to be able to reimburse ourselves for eligible payroll expenses for employees that have been substantially dedicated to responding to COVID-19. The city managers requested it, and the county agreed, which is, extremely beneficial, to the cities. And so what we can use this money for is purchasing, personal protective equipment, telecommuting, sanitization, public health order enforcement, eligible payroll expenses, and other. Now, there are, at least 2 FAQs that the Treasury Department has put out giving us guidance on how to spend this money. Now, this money can only be spent on expenditures that began March 1st of this year and until the end of December 31st. So the city has this money, and we have some projects that we would like to do with this money. One is to seek some reimbursement for our payroll expenses. We have had 5 officers that have been assigned to the COVID-19 response. A significant amount of my time has been spent towards the COVID-19 response, as well as IT and several other key city members. But we're also looking at using a significant amount of this money to upgrade our council chambers. As I was saying earlier, we do have some very significant meetings that occur here, and we do know that from this point on that we're going to have to change the way we do our meetings, and really our equipment is not to where it needs to be. It's antiquated, and if we update it, we can make ourselves be able to allow folks to engage remotely, so we're not all in the room together. So we're looking at doing that. We're also looking at finding ways to make sure our facility is sanitized. In other words, reducing the number of areas that people can touch to spread any disease or illness, especially COVID-19. We're looking at possibly touchless faucets and toilets and bathrooms, automatic doors, sneeze shields, and a few other key things. So we do have plans on how we're going to do this. I think we're also looking at putting in shields in our buses to protect the drivers. So we do have a significant number of projects to work on. If the council approves myself to enter this agreement with the county, we are going to start tomorrow on a lot of these issues, and hopefully use this money to prepare us and to reimburse us for our efforts in responding to this. So what I'm asking for you guys tonight is to authorize myself to sign the agreement and allow the finance director to make the necessary budget adjustments for both FY20 and FY21, because there will be expenditures in both years. And so that's it. There's a copy of the grant agreement that's attached, as well as the Kern County staff report. And one thing I'd like to end is I would like to, obviously recognize Supervisor McLeeson for his support in supporting the eligible payroll expenses, and obviously approving this $20 million that the county did not have to do. They could have used this for their expenditures, and being a good partner with the county and the entities in the county, they elected to share some of this, as well as the staff who were willing to listen to the city managers and take it back to their board and ask for them to make a minor modification. So with that, I'm open to any questions.
Is this just to accept the grant and then big purchases will come back to us, or does this authorize you to accept the grant and spend the grant?
It could go either way. If you want me to come back and get approval for every purchase, I can.
I'm not saying like every purchase, but I was just wondering about the bigger ticket things. Since it's $1 million, it's a lot of money. But I know like a sneeze shield is like $200. So obviously we don't need to review sneeze shields, but just
Well, there are some. There may be temporary sneeze shields in, but like for the finance department, we're just gonna seal off and put a glass barrier there. Same with the city clerk to make it permanent. So there's some that are going to be a little bit larger projects, like the doors. We have a series of doors that we want to make hands-free. The police department, and a couple of doors over at the Kerr McGee, the senior center, to be able to have doors over there. We're thinking about making one of these doors here with a door opener, so they wouldn't have to touch the door. I mean, we can bring this stuff back, but you have to remember that we only have, if this money is not expended by December 31st, it goes back to the Treasury.
right. Or is there a way that we could just have a summary of what you plan on?
Yes, we can. No, I think
I just want to make sure that we kind of have a little bit of oversight since it's $1 million and we can kind of have a public accounting of what it's used for.
Sure. I mean, we're kind of limited on what we can spend it on.
Right.
I was going to say, we know what you can spend it on. And,
Right.
and so it's not like they can go out and spend
I
it
have no
on something else. But I think it's important that we recognize, but they need our approval or just a report? That's
I can do either one. I think bringing this back and letting you guys know what because we have set it up with the county, because what we did not want to happen was for us to move forward on a project. So what we're doing is that as each city develops their projects, we're going to share it with the other city managers.
So that everybody has ideas.
So everybody has ideas, but we're also kind of vetting it. But we also have a point of contact, Alan Christensen. There's our point of contact with the county to run these projects by, to make sure that
They meet the
they take a look at it, make sure that it fits within the four square, that there's not something obvious. I mean, obviously, if we get audited and it turns out to be a purchase that they think it's not appropriate, then we have to reimburse it. So obviously, whatever projects we do, we know we want to stay within it. I have no problems with the oversight of council. I have no problems with oversight of the community. I know we have some projects that we've identified that are low-hanging fruit. I mean, touchless faucets. I mean,
I'm sure the equipment in there is probably one of the bigger spending features.
yeah, we can spend. I mean, we've had a bid upwards to, I think, $500,000, but some of that had to do with the lighting, which I don't know if we're too concerned about. We're more concerned about making sure that that booth can be run effectively, and we can have, enough cameras in here. So, because that room gets very busy for Gary, and one of the things we need to do is kind of reduce the redundancy of everything he has to do, so he can then answer the phones. And so we are going to work on putting screens in here so we can have that ability for people to call in, ability people to Zoom in or WebEx in. And so we know we have some really extremely low-hanging fruit that we know qualifies that we're going to get moving on. But I have no problems bringing this back to you guys and letting you know what we're going to do. Like with our costs are just one thing. That's 5 officers. I mean,
I just don't want us to inhibit the time frame.
Yeah, I don't think we need to review every item you're spending it on. But,
Yeah,
I
I just
just wanna
wanted
report.
a general something
Yeah.
so that we're kind of keeping an eye on it. And if there's any options like this or this, like kind of a.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think that you guys need to be, part of this. I mean, some of this is extremely, one of the things, first things we're going to work on is replacing the faucets and working on the doors. Those are the easiest ones. And obviously the council chambers, we have to update that because, that has been problematic throughout this whole thing. So that's our number one. We may not put in for as much payroll reimbursement, so we know we can afford that because we know going forward that that's something that we as a community, you have 4 major entities, public meetings that occur several times a month. And so we know that that's extremely important. And that's one of our number one priorities, to take care of that. So,
Yeah.
and of course, the guys in the booth are extremely happy.
No, I think a lot of this is great, and you'll plan it out perfectly. I just think that since we're the ones authorizing and accepting this money, we're taking it on as representatives of the city. So we should probably have some sort of responsibility in where that money goes. I would hate to get to the end of this and people, we're the ones that should be
Yes, I agree. I think
held to account.
as we come up with our scope of work to send to the county, we can send to all the council, and I can report on this at every meeting. And so there will be time that if staff is going off on a project that you don't feel is appropriate, we can discuss it and we can get direction to go elsewhere. I have no problems with that. None.
Okay. So where are we with this? Is
I'm ready to
there a
make a
motion?
motion.
Do we need that public?
Oh, is there any public comment on
There's
this?
no lights on.
Well,
I don't see
we just
anybody.
hadn't asked if there was any callers. Yeah.
Okay,
Who says
are
no?
there any more council comments on this?
Thanks.
Okay,
Thank you
let's-
to the county for giving us some money so that we can make some improvements here.
Yeah, we are very grateful, and this is going to help us considerably. Even a little bit of the reimbursement for some of our time will help us out a little bit.
Okay, so I see no calls,
It's
so
been 30
motion.
seconds, so I make a motion that we approve this item.
Second.
Please vote.
I keep forgetting.
5 ayes, motion carries.
Okay, the next item is a public hearing, and Mr. Lauer, a public hearing regarding the annual assessments for the Consolidated Landscaping and Lighting District 2012-1, the district, and adoption of the Resolution 1 approving the annual engineer's report, and 2 ordering the levy and collection of assessments for fiscal year 2020 and 2021. So, sir, if you want to talk to us, and we'll open the public hearing and receive comments.
Is my mic on?
I'll switch.
It's on, just,
I heard it.
There we go.
You just
Okay.
get closer.
so what I thought I would do is just read a brief description. At the last meeting, the council approved 3 resolutions: resolution initiating the annual proceedings, a resolution to preliminary approve the annual engineer's report with corrections, and a resolution declaring its intention to levy, not for this one, I'm sorry, for the drainage one, the formation to levy the annual assessment. So the formation of this district started in 2012, and the monies are collected to pay for ongoing maintenance, operations, servicing of the local streetscape, landscaping, and streetlight improvements established in connection with the development of the properties within the boundaries of the district. So tonight, we'd like you to do what Madam Mayor just said, open the public hearing to accept the public testimony and any written protests regarding the yearly assessment. And upon conclusion of the public testimony, the mayor can close the public hearing and council approve the resolution approving the annual engineer's report and order the levy and collection of assessments on the tax rolls. Now, the deadline for submission is June 26th of 2020.
Okay, so we opened the public hearing. Is there any comments from city council, or is there any comments from the public? This is your time to call in, please. Let's ask city council if there's any comments. Okay. Sure. Okay.
Yes, Jim, go ahead.
Okay, I see nobody calling in. I hear no comments from the public, from the council.
I motion.
Okay,
You close.
then I will close the public hearing.
Phone's ringing.
Oh, all right. Is there a comment, please, from the public? Okay, please identify yourself and make your comment, please. We're opening the public hearing back up for you to do that.
Yeah, hi, it's Dave Matthews. It's not clear to me which of the districts this is, or is it? Could you just briefly describe the boundaries that we're talking about here?
Go ahead.
Well, for sure. It might be easiest just to say it's all the lighting and landscape districts because the annual report includes all of them. So there's actually one district with subdivisions within them. Currently, there's a section off of College Heights. There's a section around Walmart and the old Walmart. There's 2 sections out in off of Drummond and 2 new subdivisions out there. And that's all.
Okay. All right, and it's those properties within those districts that are being assessed, is that correct?
That's correct, and that was chosen before there were any homes built. So
Yeah, okay. All right, thank you.
you're welcome.
Okay, is there any other comments? Okay, is there anyone else who wants to call in? We'll give you 30 seconds, please. Gary, I see nobody calling in, is that correct? Okay, then we will close the public hearing again and then go to,
Well, one quick question. Were there any written?
No.
Okay, sorry,
I checked on that.
Yeah.
yeah, I did too, so, okay.
Sorry.
All right, so item number 1 then,
Well, one's done, number 2.
I motion approval to
Of the-
the resolution of confirming the annual engineer's report for the fiscal year 2021 and the assessment diagram contained there within.
Second?
Second.
Please vote. 5 ayes, motion carries.
May I ask a quick question?
certainly.
Did the last part of that order the levy of the assessments for the fiscal year?
Yeah.
No, we have to do a
The second
separate motion
resolution.
for that.
We do?
So we're doing
Okay.
that right now.
Because it only says
I'm
one.
going to move a resolution of the city to order the levy and collection of the assessments within the Consolidated Landscaping and Lighting District, number 2012-1 for fiscal year 2020-21.
Second.
Please vote. 5 ayes, motion carries.
Okay, then we are on the next item. A public hearing regarding the annual assessment of the Drainage Benefit Assessment District 2016-1 and adoption of Resolution 1 approving the annual engineer's report and ordering the levy and collection of assessments for fiscal year 2021. Sir.
So this would be the same basic explanation. The last council meeting on the 22nd of May, 3 resolutions were passed initiating the annual proceedings, preliminary approved the annual engineer's report, and declaring the intention to levy. This drainage district was established in 2016, and basically it's to pay for maintenance, operations, and servicing of the drainage district. This drainage district is off of College Heights and Springer. Let's see, so you need to open a public hearing, and upon conclusion of the public hearing, you need to close the public hearing and approve the resolution approving the report and levying the collection of the assessments. Again, this is needs to be submitted to the county by June 26th.
Okay, this is just one resolution, so we have opened the public hearing. Is there anyone in the public who'd like to make a comment? This is your time to call in now, please. And anyone from the council who would like to say anything while we're waiting for any calls. Okay, I see no calls, so I will close the public hearing and assume there's no comments from council. And so we'll make a motion to approve this resolution.
I
Someone?
make a motion to Order the levy and collection of assessments of the City of Ridgecrest Drainage Benefit Assessment District number 2016-1 for the fiscal year 2020-2021 pursuant to the provisions of the Benefit Assessment Act of 1982.
Second.
Please vote. 5 ayes, motion carries.
Okay, so we are now.
One quick question.
Please.
I didn't hear the engineer's report get approved. I'm sorry.
There was only one
It
resolution with
said
that one.
it says approving the annual engineer's report.
Okay. So that's. if
And
that was
ordering the
included,
levy.
I just didn't hear it in the motion, that was
Okay.
all.
Okay, it was done. Okay, the next one, committee reports. Finance, Scott?
Have not met yet.
We are meeting tomorrow.
Meeting
As a
tomorrow.
full council to discuss the budget. Okay, infrastructure committee?
We did meet and we discussed several items. The first item was talk about the possibility of Ridgecrest Heights streetlights and curb and gutter assessment district, and we decided that that was not a feasible idea. Number two, we didn't really get much of a wastewater update. That's going to be on closed session next meeting. We talked a little bit about the ADA things that were going to go on at Ridgecrest Boulevard. We discussed what we just voted on, and we had a report on adaptive signal lights, which is a follow-up from what we discussed a few months ago. And basically, it's about double. It's over double to put in the adaptive lights on the intersections than it is just to replace the cameras as they go out. And then the last item was updates Bakersfield LLMG process. I don't remember that one. Bard, what did we discuss on that?
That was if we can look at adopting or
Oh, that's right. That was
anything from Bakersfield.
anything from Bakersfield on streamlining the lighting landscaping things
And the cost.
and the costs. Yeah, so that's staff had direction on that one.
We
And
also received the report, the safety analysis. I
Yes.
can't remember all of the letters.
SSARP.
SSARP.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Systemic Safety Analysis Report or something like that. And that's going to be posted on mine.
I'd send it out to council Monday of this week. We'll put it posted online Monday of next week.
Okay.
And it comes to council on the 17th.
Because there's a list of projects suggested in there, and we can go after some grant funding potentially for those
I'm
projects.
still waiting to hear
Another
back from
small
the committee
report.
members on, I'm sorry. Still waiting to hear back from committee members on projects they might be interested in.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I have not sent in my recommendations.
Okay. Economic Development Committee?
I believe we have not met.
All right. Parks and Rec, Quality of Life?
Did not meet.
Okay. RECVB? Well,
Yeah.
I know they haven't.
The only report is that their next meeting is June 17th.
Right. Other committee, boards, or commissions? Nobody? Oh,
Pardon?
Frank Cobb?
Yeah, we actually met by phone and didn't have anything really exciting. Nobody, well, there was one of my items that had a little bit of money for us. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was lumped in with a few other cities. So. I
okay.
think Bard goes to the committee that actually recommends all the spending, right? We just vote on it.
Okay. The next item then is the city manager's report.
Yes, ma'am. I believe I answered Mr. Neal and Dave's question about when we're going to open up. I'll keep council apprised of that, and if we can, we will. The dog park, I've already reached out to Narissa and Jason. They're going to reach out to the county tomorrow and see whether or not they can turn the water on at the dog park. We'll see if we can get that turned back on. As you know, as you mentioned earlier, we have our budget workshop tomorrow at 5 o'clock. We will be presenting to council a balanced budget. So we're hoping that we can get through that and see what you think about what we've done, any recommendations or changes. So we're interested in presenting that to you. Staff's done a good job. It's been a little challenging with everything that's been going on to try and get that all squared away. But I think we're presenting a solid budget based upon the facts we have at hand. We are going to be bringing to council on June 17th a ordinance regarding labor camps. As you know, that the rebuild of China Lake is on track. In fact, I believe it's a little ahead of schedule, and we do have a lot of contractors that are interested in establishing labor camps, some within the city and some on China Lake property. Our role is just to do, whatever we can to, make it as painless as possible to get in, whether they go on China Lake property or city property. But this ordinance will help us guide them on city land if they choose to do so. Obviously, we'll bring that to you guys next meeting. If we have anybody that wishes to enter an agreement, obviously that's a matter that'll be for closed session. So if that does take place, we'll be placing on the agenda to discuss with council in private. So that's my report.
A number of people expressed concerns already about labor camps being in town and safety concerns. And so if we could just make sure that we can be prepared to address that. I know I started looking at them and there were suggestions on things like a policy of no overnight guests and things like that. So
I don't know if we can go that far in the agreement, but I can when we bring it to, actually we bring it to Planning Commission June 8th for their first review and recommendation. And then thereafter, we'll bring it to council. When I bring it to council, I can then have a presentation on the land that the city is looking at, just to see what council feels about the location we're looking at now. Mind you, this ordinance will cover both city land and private land. The ordinance will allow myself, the city manager, the latitude to work out and approve these agreements because it has to be a streamlined process. So yes, we can bring that forward and take your recommendations. I mean, I don't know if anybody's going to want to build a labor camp in town. We're just going through the process that in case they do, we're available. I mean, the city sites are probably the best just because they have access to water, electricity, and sewer, whereas out on the Navy land east of town and then out by Jack's Ranch are a little bit more difficult to put the infrastructure in. Even wastewater, there's probably a strong possibility they're going to have to put a small treatment facility in just because it might be difficult for us to accept their sewage either through trucking it in or piping it in. So there's a lot of factors. This is just the first stage of us giving us the opportunity that if we wish to, we can. It doesn't mean that if we approve this that we have to.
okay, because that was what I had read. Is it seemed like sometimes these can tend to overwhelm cities.
Well, one of the things that obviously it's a negotiation factor for discussion in closed session, but I am very cognizant about the effect that if we have one of these labor camps in town, what the impact on law enforcement, and obviously, whatever cost we have in that will mitigate those impacts. In other words, we're not going to do this for nothing, because we have to, because if we have a 500 person labor camp within the middle of our community, let's say it might be even a prime location, there's still going to be an impact on law enforcement and on our roads, and the officers that are going to be responding to issues in the man camp or labor camp won't be available to respond to issues within the town, so there has to be a cost for that.
And so just to clarify too, because you said, so we don't have to allow them into the community?
Correct.
Okay.
Now, the ordinance is written that if I say no, there is an appeal to council. So
Okay.
there is a due process. We have to put due process, and I'm sure that I just interfered with Lloyd there, but Lloyd can tell you that we have to write it so it's legal and fair. Lloyd, do you have anything to add on that?
May I interject, Ron?
Sure. Yes, please.
Yeah, what I wanted to clarify is, because we were talking about a couple different things, the ordinance that Ron is mentioning that's going to Planning Commission first, and then it will come to City Council for a first and second reading. That's simply to authorize a use, to allow such a use in the city. It is not to approve a particular one. It's just to put it into our zoning code that it's a permitted use. What Ron is talking about then in closed session, that would be an individual lease or license agreement, and that falls under the category for closed session of real estate negotiations. So that's where if it was going to be city land, and if the city was going to lease or license the land to some party, that's what we would discuss in the negotiations that we would discuss for direction to the negotiator in closed session. So it's like, I think Ron said it's two steps. First, we have to authorize the use with an ordinance. And Ron mentioned some of the things that are built into the ordinance, like due process appeal to the city council. Another thing is it's merely a temporary use. So it's not like it would authorize a permanent facility. And the other thing is that it provides for conditions of approval. So if one of these uses, particular use, is permitted, the permit could include all kinds of conditions of approval along the lines of what you're talking about with police protection and traffic and all that.
Then I have one more question, sorry. So if it's currently not in our zoning, in our ordinances, does that mean it's currently not permitted and allowed within Ridgecrest?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
I would like to add a question too. The one that I read had opportunities for us as well as burdens we bear, and that certainly, but that is not part of what we're talking about right now. I guess my question is that you and I both know they're talking out at the fairgrounds. Do we have the authority to address that?
I believe we do not. However, what the fairgrounds has to realize is that that's state property, and the city of Ridgecrest does not have to provide law enforcement services. That falls under the jurisdiction of the California Highway Patrol. So if it's put out there, if they wish for the city to provide law enforcement services, I do believe they're going to have to get a contract with us to do so.
Yeah, they understood
Otherwise
that.
it'll be the CHP. So,
Yeah.
So I've spoken with Mr. Holloway. We haven't specifically spoke about that specifically. I think it'd be a good thing for the fairgrounds if they had a labor camp out there, because it would be an infusion of funds that the fairground needs. The city's been very open. We just want to be the hub and the wheel, working with the other entities within the community to try and provide any information that these folks need to be able to bid on these contracts. And so if they wish to build on China Lake property, if they wish to build on the fairgrounds, city property, county property, we're okay with that. We just want to make sure that whatever they do is good for them. And if they do something that affects us, that we're compensated for our impacts.
Exactly. Okay, thank you.
How many people are they looking at maybe using these labor camps? Do we have a figure?
Probably upwards to, well, you have several different vendors that are looking at establishing, camps. So we could have upwards to maybe 1,000 people to 1,500 people in these camps at any one time, spread out. You could have,
Moving in and out.
I know that the Navy is looking at them building and running a labor camp up by Tank Hill on the east side of town. The west side by Jack's Ranch Road is just land available for whichever contractor wishes to avail themselves to it. But I do believe the Navy is actively looking to establish a camp up there. And so that, which I think is a great option. I think it's the cheapest way for them to do it. The only drawback is they don't have sewer and water and electricity is a little difficult. So, but it's still probably an option for them.
Okay. Any more, sir?
No, ma'am, that's all I have.
Okay. Future agenda items. Anybody? Okay, then mayor and council comments. Anyone?
You all look asleep.
Well, I would just like,
No, I was just sitting here and thought.
I would just like
I have a pretty
to-
lighthearted comment. I'm sorry, Peggy.
No, go ahead.
I just wanted to applaud Bob and Doug, SpaceX and NASA getting to the International Space Station. I think that's a brilliant thing to see. I watched the launch. I got up the next morning, watched them dock, watched
That
their
was
press conference,
exciting.
and it was a good day to be an American.
Yeah. Okay, the only comment I wanted to make is I hope everyone is doing okay after this recent quake, and I know Will here and the police department, as Ron said, is out doing a windshield look around, so you will let us know if you're not doing okay. Thank you very much, and I will adjourn the meeting now. Thank you.
Not bad. Hour and a half.